Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Chanel Show. So as you can tell from the title and the thumbnail, I'm going to be talking about the Disney Park Ride POVs that they now have on Disney Plus in honor of Disneyland's 70th anniversary. And before I really get into this, even though it is kind of obvious, I did want to give a little bit of an overview of what the POVs are, how long they've been around, and just the point. So essentially a POV video, a point of view video, is giving you the point of view of being at that event, at that place. And in this case, being at a Disney park, being on one of the rides or in one of the attractions, and essentially giving you the experience of being there, being on the rides or in the attractions without actually having to be there in person. And these have been around on YouTube for quite some time, possibly even as early as when YouTube first started in the early 2000s, in 2005. And it started up on Disney Plus on July 17th, which was Disneyland's anniversary, Disneyland's birthday. And essentially the point of these, like I said, is to give you that point of view on the ride, on the attraction, at the place, at the event, without having to be there in person, which helps a lot for people who maybe don't have enough money to go there or aren't able-bodied and can't go there. Whatever the reasoning is, it's to give people who can't be at the parks that accessibility of what the rides look like, what the rides are, being there visually at least, if not being there in real time. And like, honestly, I think this would have worked better. I think Disneyland, well, not just Disneyland, I think Disney would have banked more buck if they'd done this during COVID. And just because it's like the parks were closed and you couldn't go to the parks during COVID. And I think they would have gotten so many more streams if they had done that during COVID for the specific rides and done a majority of the rides. And I understand that this is kind of like the test phase to see how it would go, to see how it would flow as well. I think that there could have been things that were done better. Now for me, I watched part of the Toontown walkthrough, and then I watched all of the Pirates of the Caribbean ride through, and ideally, at the end of the day, this is a good idea. I think it makes it more accessible, like I said, to people who can't go there, whether it's a financial situation or a physical situation. It makes it more accessible. I just think it could have been done better in how they approached it. Like with the Toontown walkthrough, there wasn't any people in there during the walkthrough, which I think is fine, but I think there needs to be like the chatter of the people, because it kind of felt like they were trying to go for the ambiance of it rather than it just being a plain walkthrough. And I feel like even though we don't go for the other people being there and the chatter of the other people, I feel like that adds to the experience. So there needed to be the chatter. And also too, it was very obviously a drone going through, which isn't a bad thing, but sometimes it was going a little bit too fast or a little bit too slow at points, which I feel kind of takes away from the immersiveness of it. And this was really obvious in both the Toontown and the Pirates one. There would be parts that they would like kind of cut to another visual or cut to another sound, and that kind of draws you out of the immersiveness of it, because when you're there, again, from what I could tell, it feels like they were trying to have it be somewhat immersive, and kind of having it cut at certain places or certain sounds cutting in and out, like that kind of takes you out of the immersive nature of it, I think. And I feel like it should have just been like a walkthrough based on how cast members would have walked through Toontown or any of the other lands, you know, like a walkthrough based on how they would do it, because they're there on a daily basis for hours upon hours. So I feel like it would have been better if we would maybe not necessarily seeing them or having them talk about the walkthrough, but seeing how they would have walked through the park, you know. And then going to the Pirates of the Caribbean ride through, this was, I love Pirates of the Caribbean. I'm one of those people where it's definitely one of my top rides. It's in my top 3 rides, top 5 attractions, and it was sadly underwhelming. Now, again, it was very obvious that it was a drone because at the beginning it's going way too fast before it slows down. You don't see any of the other boats, which I was kind of disappointed by, because again, it's part of the atmosphere seeing the boats. It's part of the thing, it's part of the experience. And then they kind of also brightened things up, which I don't mind, because there are certain parts on Pirates, like the old man in the cabin playing the banjo. He's sometimes hard to see in person, so I don't mind that they brightened up certain parts. But there were parts that were like a little bit too bright for the ride, and it's meant to be kind of darker, you know, visually. And so there was that. And then there was also the fact that the talking skull at the beginning, that's like warning you about the ride ahead. They don't show that, but they have the voice talk saying those lines while you're going down that first drop, which for me at least really takes me out of it, because it's like I'm always looking up at the skull as the skull's talking, and like that's a major part of the introduction to the ride. And also too, like the Blue Bayou, that was like lights were on and it was empty, which bothered me a teensy bit, because like unless you're going like early in the morning, it's not gonna be empty like that. And I feel like that's a large part of the ambiance too, hearing that very soft chatter coming from the Blue Bayou restaurant. That's a big part of the ambiance too, even though it's soft, like it's there. But you go down the drop and then it's kind of cutting between scenes, and you don't go through the entire ride as a whole, which bothered me, because it's like part of the POV is you're seeing the whole ride, the whole attraction from start to finish. So I feel like, not that I would like really dock any points, but like they kind of lost points with their point of view for that, and it made me not want to watch the other POVs, because I'm like, if I'm watching Haunted Mansion, I want to see Haunted Mansion all the way through. I don't want to be cutting in and out just because it's a quiet part. And that's the larger reason why I'm not going to be watching the other POVs, because it's like if I'm watching a POV, I'm expecting to watch, like I said, start to finish. Potentially even walking on, depending on how the queue is, you know. Haunted Mansion queue is very big. It's a very big part of the ride. So I honestly think that they could have done better with how they handled the POVs and how they handled like the ambiance, because the POV is the ambiance is a large part of these POVs. And places like a Disney theme park, like the ambiance is a large part of what makes it special and what sets it apart. So I honestly think, like, at the end of the day, it was pretty underwhelming and not what I would have expected from Disney, and not the quality I would have expected from Disney. And like I was mentioning with like the Toontown, like someone walking through the way they would have walked through, have someone in one of the boats, have a cast member in one of the boats holding the camera, and then panning through, because you know the cast members, like I said, are there on a daily basis, and they kind of know where guests are going to be looking. They know roughly where the eyes are going to be drawn. And I feel like that would have been a much better way to do the POVs than using a drone. And like, that's how the POVs are done on YouTube. And yes, those are in some cases not professionally done, not in all cases, but in some cases. So I feel like you would expect from Disney to have like the top-notch POV for their own rides and for their own parks, and it didn't feel like that at the end of the day, which was a bummer, I feel, because it's like, again, when you're going into these, you're expecting to be as immersed as possible in the comfort of your own home without being exhausted after being at the park for like 8 hours. So without having to wait in line 30 plus minutes for the ride. So I feel like they could have done that better, and they could do it better and could improve, because again, it's like when you're doing a ride POV, when you're looking these up on YouTube, you're not looking into these for the best of the ride. You're looking into these for the full ride or for the full land. You're not looking into it for the best of or the best of Disney. You can get that on the Disney app or on the Disney Plus app. And they could for sure do like a best of the Disney theme parks, or like the best of the rides, the best of New Orleans Square, the best of Adventureland. And they could do like specific scenes. But if you're saying it's a ride POV, it needs to be the full ride and not the best of the ride. So those are all of my thoughts on this. I know this is a shorter video. I just don't want to turn into a broken record with this. So let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comments, so we can have a discussion about this. At the end of the day, like I said, it is a good idea, ideally, and it could be done really well, and you would expect it to be done really well from Disney. So at the end of the day, it's a great idea, and I think they could do it very well if they actually watch the POVs on YouTube and see what those do. So with all that said, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.